Whether you're a seasoned gardener or nature lover, plant assassin or permaculture professional, we got you. We got you. Let us bring you the ideas, the facts, support and inspiration to go green wherever you are. Sundays 9 to 10 a.m. only on Radio Al Ansar. Hey, it's Green Thumbs Up Day. And you're listening to that gardening and natural living show you didn't know you needed. Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host and life coach, Rabia Carvalho. And this is our second Green Thumbs Up show in the blessed month of Ramadan. I read a quote this morning that I must share with all of you because it was just so beautiful. And it says, if we want gardens, we must become the gardeners. If we want love, we must be loving. If we want change, we must alter our own course. If we want connection, we must reach. If we want place, we must be steady. If we want home, we must nurture a house. And if we want to love who we are, we must become who we respect the most and admire. Wasn't that beautiful? Yes, if we want gardens, then we must become the gardener. And this is the show where we talk about all those wonderful gardening and natural living tips. So if you're joining us on 90.4 FM in Durban, or maybe you're at Pietermaritzburg and you're joining us on 105.6 FM, or perhaps is it alansar.org.za, or guess what? Today we're on Facebook. So join us on Facebook as well on Radio Al Ansar. And by all means, you can WhatsApp us 060-904-1056. We are going to be digging into the natural living show here, as we always do, from 9 to 10 a.m. every Sunday. Now, this morning, our sound engineer is the lady with that beautiful surname that I love so much, which is Zuha Sherazad. I love saying that name, Zuha. I can't get over it. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum salam. Alhamdulillah, shukran, you?
Alhamdulillah. How's the fast going for you?
I'm feeling it today.
Are you feeling it
I just
today?
want to sleep. I'm good this morning. Oh my God.
Yeah, this morning was a bit of a hard one to get up on. Now, you know, I always have those corny questions for you first thing in the morning on the radio.
Oh my God. Okay.
What grows under your nose?
I can't say that on you.
No,
So
you
sorry.
It's tulips. Tulips, like the flowers. Tulips.
Oh my God.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good one.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm actually going to try it at home.
What grows under your nose? Tulips. Gosh, okay. So if you're joining us on Facebook, you'll see we're both blushing over here. So last week we began with our series in permaculture, Ramadan in permaculture, and we learned what is permaculture. Permaculture, organic gardening, using the environment basically to produce the best food, and using the way we garden to improve the environment around us. All those bugs, those creepy crawlies that help us as gardeners. And today we're going to be covering part 2, which is laying the organic garden out. And we've got our specialist that is going to be joining us again later on in the show. We're going to be doing Nature's Apothecary. And in our Nature's Apothecary today is something that you all know and I'm sure love from years gone by, and it is fennel. You probably don't know the name, right? If I say fennel. But if I say sumph, do you know what that is? Yes, sumph. We're going to be talking all the sumphiness of sumph. And it's going to be absolutely wonderful. So let's do that. We're going to have a blooming good time. And I've thought up some riddles for you again this week. So I'm going to give you the first one, which is very, very easy before we bring our guest on. And it is as follows. I'm dark and lovely with leaves on top. If you cut me open, you'll see a heart. I'm good for the gut and I don't have ink. Here's the hint. But if you eat me today, I'll make water pink. WhatsApp us 060-904-1056. I'm sure you all know that one. I'm dark and lovely with leaves on top. If you cut me open, you'll see a heart. I'm good for the gut and I don't have ink. But if you eat me today, I'll make water pink. In December, we had the sook, those of you who remember the Durban summer sook and were there, and I gave out the recipe for making kvass. So there's another tip for you on that. So today's guest is the horticulturalist and organic gardening expert, Norma Bode. Norma lives in Howick in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands, and she's done so for the last 37 years. She's a mom, and like myself, she began learning gardening at her grandmother's knee from early childhood. So she has an urban organic food forest garden. Imagine that. It's urban, it's not in the rural areas, but it's organic and it's a food forest, a forest of food. She's a teacher of all things organic. And so I have to say, she's actually one of our special organic botanic mechanics. And so we welcome this morning Norma Bode. Good morning, Norma. How are you?
Good morning, Rabia. I'm well, thank you. And you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm sure you know the answer to that riddle. Let's see if somebody out there will know it.
I actually didn't get to hear the first part of your introduction. So,
okay. Well, I'll give you the riddle again in case one of the listeners hasn't heard
okay.
it. I'm dark and lovely
All right.
with leaves on top. If you cut me open, you'll see a heart. I'm good for the gut and I don't have ink, but if you eat me today, I'll make water pink. Don't give it away. We'll wait for the listeners. Now, you have some wonderful tips today on how to lay out our food beds. Now, how would you start? Last week, you shared with us a little bit. How would you start? You look out in your property and now, what do you do?
Well, the first thing is to just observe your property and see where the sun comes up in the morning and how it moves during the day and where it goes down, where the most sun is during the day and where your shady areas are.
Yes.
So, because most of your veggies and plants need quite a bit of sunlight. It's usually 5 to 6 hours of sunlight and sun. There are some that you can get away with some shady areas, but obviously they're not going to produce as big yield and size as those that are in this direct sunlight. So that's very important.
Yes, because different plants are going to need different amounts of sunlight, and not much likes to grow in the dark, except mushrooms.
That's correct. Yes.
And even they need some light. So we have a taker for the question and for the riddle, and the listener says, Fazila Syed says, watermelon. Not watermelon, because it's dark and lovely with leaves on top. I think that's why she thought it was watermelon. You'll make water pink. That's your hint. So you've looked out into the garden and you've kind of surveyed the land, and now you've decided this is where the sun goes. This is where there's more shade in the afternoon. This is where there's more shade in the morning. And then what? Because you've got to decide then what to plant, right?
And you also need to consider, are there any pests around, animals that would come into the garden? Would you have to put up fencing? Would there be trees in the garden? As well.
And the tilt of the soil, I suppose, as well. Because
exactly. So you need to take all those things into consideration. Have you got water nearby? Because you don't want to be planting and you don't have piping and the finances to go and install a big piping irrigation system, and you've got to carry buckets of water for, a long distance. So all those factors come into play. And then obviously your soil as well. is very important.
You want to grab it and crumple it up, and does it stick together, or is it very fine and sandy? So
exactly.
you know the type of
So
soil.
you need to check all of those things, and also what your specific needs are for your garden, for your family. So once you've made your assessments, would you need to put other things up for protection, like tunnels, or you have to take into account your weather conditions. What can you grow in those weather conditions in your area?
So laying out the garden is literally, you've got to play investigator. So kind of have an idea of what you're wanting to do, but understand that those best laid plans might not work in your garden, and that's okay. Just got a few answers to that question. In fact, there's a few of them coming in. H. Wadi, okay. No, hold on. I've got the wrong person. Let me have a look over here. We got Fazila Sayed once again. She's got another try, and she's saying the same thing as Aisha Abu Bakr, and the same thing as a few other listeners, quite a few listeners that have messaged in, Aisha as well. And they're all saying the same thing, and they're all right. And it is, of course, beetroot. Beetroot. Let's take beetroot as an example, because that's one that we're planning towards. It's not one we're growing right now, but it is one that we're planning towards. And that I learned something I didn't know about beetroot, and that is you don't have to put just one seed in one little seed hole. You can actually put 4 seeds in there, and they actually grow in the beetroots themselves kind of push against one another, and they just grow out. So when you pop that beetroot out, you get a whole bunch of them in one little hole.
That's absolutely right, yes. And they may not get as big as some of the others where there's, but you will still get beetroot, so nothing gets wasted.
Yes.
And the beetroot seeds are very fine, so unless you've got a seed sower, there's a little gadget that you can get where you can adjust it according to the size of the seed, and it'll pop one seed into each hole.
Yes.
It's
difficult.
When you're sowing by hand, you can often get those with those tiny little seeds, pop more than one in.
We're going to hold that thought. We're going to hold that thought because we need to plant some other seeds. Seeds of wonderful things in one's mind with advertising break. So it's 9:20. We're going off to an advert break, and we'll be right back. Don't go away. We'll see you after this.
Radio Ansar. Darwood Megastore takes 7.
Darwood Megastore. What's the line again?
More cluck for your buck. Take 14.
Darwood Megastore.
Fitting South African place since 1947.
What? No. The line is take 22.
Darwood Megastore.
The friendliest staff and...
I can't take it anymore. More cluck for your buck at Darwood Megastore in Briardine, Wilson's Wharf, and now PMB.
Come visit Dialedu at 50 Kawi Road, Morningside, for the ultimate ladies-only salon experience. Our qualified hairstylists specialized in all color techniques and blends, including balayage and ombre. Pamper yourself with our luxurious hair treatments. Book your appointments now on 0844 22 3464. Dialedu, where your hair dreams come true.
Halim distribution will take place on Saturdays at 1:30 p.m. at the Sparks Road Muhammadiyah Masjid, as well as the Al Ansar Hall at 189 West Road, and on Sundays at 12:30 p.m. at Capital Air, 176 Brickfield Road, Overport. Proudly brought to you by the Capital Group of Companies.
Salams, when are you getting here? It's almost iftar.
Oh my God, is it that time already? I've been so busy running around from shop to shop trying to get all the e-shopping done.
Huh? Why would you do that to yourself when you can just simply go to one place?
Halima, I wish I could live in the state of delusion you do.
No, I'm serious. serious. Have you never heard of the Al-Ansar Eid Milan? They have absolutely everything you need, from your Eid outfit to the butter biscuits and barfi you'd send your mother-in-law, and the Eid gifts you'd get from me.
Wow. And does this all in one place?
Yes, it's from the 28th March to the 1st April at the Saxony Westwood Mall, and the entrance fee is only 10 rand. Go check out their Instagram at Al-Ansar Events.
So no parking issues, a fully air-conditioned venue, and entertainment for my kids? The Al-Ansar Eid Milan is really the place to be.
Getting you through your day. Radio Al-Ansar.
I know I'm waiting for something.
At Wimpy, our doors are always open for all to come inside and feel at home. During the blessed month of Ramadan, we're thinking of every one of you. So think of us when you need to break your fast and head to your nearest halal Wimpy to try a new favorite, the barbecue mayo cheeseburger and chips for only 64 Rand 90. There's a warm welcome and a table waiting for you inside whenever you need. So come on in and break your fast with us, because at Wimpy, you're always welcome. You are back with Green Thumbs Up, and we are talking about organic living. We're talking in particular about laying your garden bed, and lots of people came back with the riddle answer being beetroot. Facebook question, I would like to know what kind of plant is that? So the beetroot is that round, looks like a ball basically, and it's purple, and you could grate that fresh. It's in the vegetable section of your supermarkets, and it is actually really, really good for your gut, particularly if you make some kvass with it, which is a drink. Literally, it is beetroot, water, sugar, and you let that stand for 4 days, and then you are able to drink that for your gut. So that is beetroot. And we're talking to Norma Bode. Let's give out the second riddle for today. These are getting a little bit harder. So I'm juicy and bright, yellow, red, even black. I help your bone health. Now there's a life hack. Some called me poison as I grow on a vine. But if you use me in lotions, I smell divine. I wonder what that is. I wonder what that is. Norma, we're talking about the sunlight and the leaning of the garden, and you were talking about how difficult it is to sow those little beetroot seeds to a hole, because they are so tiny that unless you're going to have that sower, it's very, very difficult to put one. So it makes life easier to just pop a few into a hole.
Yes, absolutely. And, it's just enjoy it. Don't panic. If you pop a few in and you need to, if you find they're not growing too well because they're too condensed together, you just pull a few out, and you can transplant the ones that you've taken out.
So if they're still young, the beetroot is still young, and you happen to thin them out, almost like carrots, but I don't think you can replant carrots. You can replant beetroot.
No, carrots don't like to be thinned. Well, they don't like to be transplanted.
Yes.
So, but what I do is often when I have where there's a few come up all bunched together, I let them get to about the size of my index finger, and then I just pull the smaller ones out and leave the stronger one, which would be normally in the center.
Yes.
So I can use all those little ones as baby carrots. Nothing will go to waste.
Yes, of course.
And you get an early harvest from using those.
And the garden
and then
just
allow the others to keep growing until they reach their full size.
Yes.
And so and then you just do succession planting as well. So you don't plant your whole packet all at once.
Yes.
Unless you've going to be
harvesting a major
a
crop.
lot of people, exactly, or you're going to be selling some off or blanching them and putting them in the freezer. So,
that's a nice thing about gardening that a lot of people don't know, because we tend to think, okay, you make the bed, you grow your stuff, it's seed, weed, harvest and then put some more in. But in actual fact, if you just keep it going, if you slowly, planting a few seeds, harvesting a bit of this, and some things, as you say, you can weed out, and other things you can keep harvesting, like with lettuce, easily grown in pots, as you could grow a beetroot in a deep pot. You could harvest those outside lettuce leaves, and it just keeps giving you more until eventually it bolts, and that means it'll shoot that center thing for the listener at home, and it'll go to seed. But there are things,
correct.
right? We kind of keep having this ongoing produce, and it can be done in containers as well.
Yes, you can literally grow almost anything edible in a container.
Yes. Now, you said
whether
something.
you have,
Please go on.
Even if you just have if you do not have a garden per se, and you've only got a little courtyard, you can still plant in pots and use the heights of your courtyard as well. So consider putting, if you're wanting to grow climbing beans, for instance,
yes,
plants in the pots, have a trellis going up from there onto the wall or onto the fence, and your beans will grow up there. And so you're utilizing all the space that you have.
Yes, and then you could have hanging baskets just above that trellis with your strawberries.
Yes.
I saw something the other day which was wonderful, which was growing tomatoes upside down. So you've got this basket, but so it's a mesh basket, any kind of mesh basket that you're lining in coir, and then you're putting the soil in, but you're actually planting so you're growing your seedlings, your tomato seedlings, and then you're popping them, especially cherry tomatoes now, you're popping them into the base of that hanging basket, and they grow downwards. I thought that was so amazing, because there you've got isn't that awesome? And you can use your Coke bottle. Something else I saw was somebody who had stitched or used rope to suspend, almost like a ladder, these Coke bottles, one above the other, above the other, above the other. So it looks like a ladder hanging off a wall, and they were growing strawberries in that, and the strawberries would cascade down that ladder.
Yes, I know. There are so many things that you can use and recycle that it doesn't have to cost you anything.
Yes.
For instance, buckets as well. If you're wanting to plant potatoes and you don't have space in your garden, you can use buckets.
Yes.
And and as you start off with your one bucket, and as the potatoes start growing, you cut the bottom of another bucket the same size out, and that will fit perfectly in the rim of the top of the first bucket. And then you add some more compost in, and your potatoes keep growing. So you can go as high as you can.
And just
you could, do quite a few buckets and then get a really good harvest from a few buckets standing one in a tower on top of each other in a small area on your patio or courtyard or in your garden.
And there's your potatoes.
And you can, yes.
Now, speaking of potatoes, I want to give away the answer to that last riddle. We've had no takers, so I assume maybe it's just a little bit difficult because of the lotions part. And there's a reason I added the lotions, though. So here was the riddle. I'm juicy and bright, yellow, red, even black. I help your bone health. Now there's a life hack. Some call me poison as I grow on a vine, but you can use me in lotions and I smell divine. And it is, of course, the tomato. Now, for those of you who don't know, there are some varieties of tomato out there. There's so many varieties of tomatoes. Some of them are black and they have these lines on them, these striations on them. And then you have the Oxheart tomato. They can get so big and so heavy, and they're so juicy, and they do help bone health. And why I say they use it, some called me poison, is because back in the day, because the tomato is part of the Solanum nigrum family, part of the Solanum family, they were regarded as poison. People didn't know that you could eat them. And so they're actually in the poison garden in the UK. And those leaves, those tomato leaves, are beautiful. They smell absolutely wonderful. If you add them to your homemade lotions, they smell gorgeous. They are very softening for the skin and very hydrating. So there's the tomato, and I'll give out another riddle while we're at it. Sometimes I'm white, sometimes I'm red, sometimes I'm both, and I grow on the bed. Sometimes I dangle, but always with sweetness I'll get in your teeth, but I'm good for diabetes. And we have mentioned this one already today. Now, you said something to me the other day that you actually started some of your beds on grass. On the grass.
Yes.
Can you just tell us how?
Okay, so that's called no-dig gardening. And it's the most amazing, I do all my beds on grass, and that's what I teach people to do as well.
Okay.
So you just take, instead of digging up the grass and wasting so much time and efforts, and then you've also got all the grass to try and get rid of afterwards. You just decide where you're putting your bed. You get some waste cardboard, open up all your cardboard boxes, flatten them out, take off any of the plastic tape and stickers that are on it.
So you want just the cardboard?
So the brown cardboard is normally, like brown cardboard boxes is normally what we use. But you can use any cardboard, but just not the ones with the shiny film on them.
Because of the plastic.
It's like a plastic film that doesn't decompose, and you lay that down and it looks like a jigsaw puzzle all over. You interlock them so that there's no pieces of grass sticking through. And then you take your rich homemade compost and put that on top, and create a bed. And we call them no-dig beds because you normally make the bed. You can make it any size you want them to, but to have pathways in between is very important.
Oh yes, of course. So you're not
you're not compacting that soil by standing on it. You don't stand on the no-dig bed, and it must be easy to lean over to plant or harvest or work in that bed.
So eventually the grass turns into just organic matter below
yes,
the cardboard.
It does, and it's also regenerates by doing it that method. Regenerates the soil underneath that grass. So if you've got horrible old soil and under there, and it's been chemicals have been used there, and that all that.
It's just
doing it this way, it helps to regenerate the soil underneath there as well.
Yes, it's going to improve the biome.
And then you also don't have it saves so much time and energy. You don't have to keep adding huge amounts of compost to that bed.
So you lay out the compost. Do you put topsoil on, or do you just grow? Compost can be quite acidic.
I put just compost. Look, if you've got some topsoil that you need to get rid of and use up, then I'd certainly put a layer of that on. But then you still need a fair amount of compost on top of that. And then you would mulch it and give it a good watering, and you can plant straight away. So how easy is that?
That is so easy. There you go. You've got your grass, or you've got your poor soil with this wild grass over it. You just lay down that that cardboard, make sure there's no plastic or films over it. Then throw your compost over that. And of course, there shouldn't be gaps so the grass doesn't grow through it. And then make sure there's pathways, if I get you right, and water it down. Put your seeds in and there you go. If the compost is well rotted, you're not going to have a problem with the acidity. But if you're using like fresh manure, I think that might be a little bit too strong if it's
no, you wouldn't
compost.
use fresh manure. It's got to be well-rotted compost. That's, yes. So if you don't have your own ready-made, find a source where you can get some good organic compost and just to get you started.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Now let's talk about, we spoke a little bit about the fact, if the land is tilted, then, obviously the water is going to flow to one side. So you plant your water thirsty plants on one side. But we're going to come back to that. We're going to talk about different types of watering straight after this little ad break. Don't go away. Stay with us on Green Thumbs Up. Dear listeners, we will be right back after this.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
Ramadan, a month to go beyond our ordinary, praying more, giving more, connecting more. Join Africa Muslims Agency to feed the fasting for 110 Rand per day, provide a grocery hamper for 1,600 per month, and feed a village or camp for 17,000 Rand per day. Every donation goes beyond just food and water. It transforms lives, empowers communities, and brings the spirit of Ramadan to thousands in need. Together, we can bring hope to families in Gaza, South Africa, Mozambique, and 18 other countries. This Ramadan, go beyond with AMA for a better world.
Looking for Islamic and designer jewelry? Look no more. Alabina Jewelry has a stunning range. Ayatha Gursi adult and baby cuffs 220, Ayatha Gursi necklaces 300, Ayatha Gursi baby pins 450. We are launching on-the-spot Arabic and English name engraving necklace collections at the Eid Milan. Visit us at the Eid Milan, 28 March to 1st April, Westwood Mall. Call or WhatsApp us today on 081-829-5714. Alabina Jewelry, made with excellence.
Every child deserves a happy childhood, but unfortunately, many kids miss out on the simple joys of sweet treats due to financial constraints.
This Ramadan and Eid, let's come together to brighten the lives of these deserving children.
Join me, Zahir Basa,
and myself, Bibi Amina Fili, in collecting sweet treats for our little ones.
Your contribution can make a world of a difference in putting smiles on their faces.
Simply drop off your sweet treats at the Al-Ansar Foundation or visit our website at www.alansar.org.za to find out more information.
Or simply call 031-208-1601. Let's make this Ramadan and Eid a truly special and memorable occasion for every child.
The Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, used to accept gifts and reward people for giving them. Spoil your family this Ramadan by visiting the Al-Ansar shop. We have a wide range of gifts to choose from. Visit us at 207 West Road, Overport. Al-Ansar shop, your one-stop Islamic shop.
Radio Al-Ansar.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs Up on 90.4 FM in Durban, 105.6 FM in Pietermaritzburg. And we're on Facebook this morning. And I have another question before we continue for my dear sound engineer, Zuha. Let's get corny, girl. Let's get corny. Zuha, how does a cucumber become a pickle? It goes through a jarring experience.
Oh my That's a nice one too.
Yes, so Norma, hello and welcome back.
Hello.
Yes, cucumbers go through a jarring experience. I have been wanting to cover, I've got this whole thing written up and everything for pickles and that, but that's a joke for another day. We'll get to it. We're talking about types of watering, and I saw that there was a lovely tip. If you go away on holiday and you've got pot plants, you can take a 2-liter bottle of water and just drill a few holes in the lid and then put it so basically you stand it up on the pot so that the head of the bottle is in the water, and slowly it drips water into your plant. But there are lots of different types of watering when you lay out your garden. What are some of the considerations we might think about when we start our organic gardens?
Okay, so watering is very important. If you need to have a water source close by, obviously, there are many different ways of doing it. If a simple way that most people use is that they would have a garden hose and a sprinkler, and they would just move the sprinkler around after running it for a certain period of time. But, that's, you've got to keep an eye on it more often. And so there's also depending on the size of your garden. If you've got a huge property and you're planting lots of crops, you're obviously going to need a more advanced water reticulation system. Yes.
I've often said to people also, think about when you're watering the garden, we tend to think of a water spraying over things. A lot of plants, like your tomatoes actually, if there's a lot of water and there's a lot of humidity and there's heat, then you may be opening yourself up to molds and things. So watering on the surface in the food garden, watering the surface of the soil through some sort of a drip thing. So if you're going to put out water reticulation, so those little pipes that run through your vegetable garden, or even in your pot plants, you're going to run those pipes. You don't need a spray from above. You just want to put a little bit of water at the bottom. And that's one of the ways. Yes.
That's one of the ways, which it can be, a little bit costly initially to start off, and have that fitted, especially if you need someone to come and fit it for you. But there's
also ways around it. Normally, there are ways around it. I know a lot of people want to put in the reticulation and then have it on a timer, but you don't need to. You can actually put in reticulation where you just connect the hose pipe to the one end, and then you turn on the tap and off it goes. Yes.
Exactly. And yes, and then with your water storage as well, you can collect water from your roofs, from your downpipes, have some tanks and use that water for the watering of your garden. And obviously, if it's a very flat property, you may you'll have to either raise the tank onto a stand, a safe stand, so it's got some height, and have it so you can do gravity feeding. If you've got a slope property, well, that's perfect to have your tanks at the top and gravity feed. So you don't need to,
So you've got your large properties, your small properties, your courtyards, your verandas. And I just want to give the listener at home, dear listener, that if you think about it, we're not necessarily talking about setting up a farm here, but because you can do it in your courtyard, as we spoke about different ideas. Gosh, Norma, I don't know where the time goes. I really don't know where the time goes.
I know.
Because I've got all these questions for you, and our time is up. Our time is up.
Oh, no.
Oh, can you believe it? So bing, bing, bing. That's us for Norma Boat today. Norma, please give out your contact details for the listeners should they wish to get a hold of you very, very quickly.
Thank you so much, Rabia. My contact number is 060 314 8498. My email is houseoforganicssa@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook under House of Organics, and on Instagram, House of Organics SA.
Wonderful, Norma. Thank you so much for being with us today. And we will see you next week for part 3 of this Ramadan in permaculture. Look forward to talking to you. So that's it, listener from Norma Boat. Stay with us because we are going to go on to our Nature's Apothecary, and we're going to be talking about Sumph. So stay with us. We're going to a quick ad break. We'll be right back after this.
Radio Al-Ansar.
When you give water, you're reaching out to drought-affected areas, bringing them to life. Fresh water to drink, to clean, and to grow. That's the power of water. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our hearts ache for our brothers and sisters in Gaza who are enduring unimaginable suffering. Despite ongoing bombardment and devastation, they continue to face the dire shortages of food, water, and essential supplies. The situation is dire, with reports of famine in the north and women and children dying from starvation. It is heartbreaking to think of families observing Ramadan without even the basic necessities to sustain them, whilst our tables at home will be laden with the best of foods at both Sehri and Iftar. I'm asking you to donate 100 rand or more so we can feed a starving Palestinian with a hot meal at Iftar. I urgently appeal to your generosity and compassion. The banking details: Al-Ansar Relief Fund, the bank, Nedbank, the account number 112-687-2814. The branch code is 198765. Nedbank, account number 112-687-2814. Branch code 198765. Al-Ansar Relief Fund. May your generosity during this blessed month bring comfort and relief to those in need.
Audio stream across the world on radioalansar.co.za.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs Up. I'm your host and life coach, Rabia Carvalho. We gave out a little riddle earlier on. Let me remind you of that one. I'm just going to give that one away for you as well. Sometimes I'm white, sometimes I'm red, sometimes I'm both, and I grow on my bed. I sometimes dangle, but always with sweetness. I'll get in your teeth, but I'm good for diabetes, and it is strawberries. Strawberries are low carbohydrate fruits that are actually really good for diabetic patients in moderation, of course, because they are not going to give you a very big glycemic boost. So there's strawberries, in fact, all berries. I've got one more riddle for you as we start the Nature's Apothecary, and this one is very easy. You're all going to know this one. I know it. WhatsApp 060-904-1056. My name can be Icy. My name can be Buttery. My name can be Oak, but I'm not a tree. And speaking of not a tree, today's natural apothecary. Let's try that again. Nature's Apothecary. We're talking about fennel, aka sumph. Now you may know sumph as just the little seeds that you can use in your cooking or baking, but fennel itself, the plant itself, it's this bulb, and it's got those the leaves that grow above it. It's actually really, really good for us. So let's talk a little bit about it. And before we do, quick disclaimer, remember this is for educational purposes. Everything that we give you on Nature's Apothecary is for educational purposes. Always consult with your medical doctor, because natural things can and will interact with medications. Never use herbs as a herbal treatment during pregnancy. So fennel or sumph is really good for digestion, whether you are cutting up the fennel and adding it to fish and making a very Mediterranean kind of a thing, or whether you are actually just chewing on some seeds after you have had your iftar. It actually is really good to aid digestion. And not only that, it is the flattener of flatulence. Yes, we all get it. We all get gas and wind. We're human beings. And so fennel seeds are one of those things that will actually reduce the bloating and reduce the flatulence. In older years, fennel is a great one for ladies because it is a wonderful menopause rescue for the hot flushes. And I know all the ladies are going, what? Say what again? Yes, sumph for the hot flushes. You can actually turn it into a tea. And for that tea, you will take a teaspoon of your fennel seeds, of your sumph seeds, and you will put that into a cup of boiling water, and you will then let it stand for a little while. You can also boil the seeds if you want a little bit of a stronger tea. You take your teaspoon of fennel seeds into your cup of boiling water already, put it on the stove top. So as soon as you see it's boiling, then you can just lower down the heat, let it simmer for 10 minutes, and there you have yourself a lovely cup of fennel tea, which is a nice one to have as well after you've had all your savories and before you go off to your Tarawih Salah. So when you get back and then you're wanting to eat some more, your digestion is ready for it. It is an anti-inflammatory as well. So it is the kind of thing that you can use in treating things like arthritis and rheumatism. It's a nice one that reduces the inflammation of it. Now, fennel has certain properties that can actually protect against heart disease and certain types of cancer, for example, and most particularly breast cancer, lung cancer, liver cancer, and colon cancer. So including fennel into your diet is actually a really good thing. A lot of people don't like the taste of fennel. Do you like the taste of fennel? Fennel is quite a strong licorice tasting a herb. And speaking of licorice, it has another property like the licorice root, and that is weight loss. Yes, it does help for weight loss. Another thing for the ladies going through menopause is not just the hot flushes, but during menopause, there is a drop in lots of different hormones like estrogen and even testosterone. And fennel is a good one to kind of boost those particular ones. And we have a taker on the riddle. Let's have that riddle again. My name can be icy. My name can be buttery. My name can be oak, but I'm not a tree. What am I? And Brother Muhammad says, it's lettuce. Yes, it is, with lots of exclamation marks and lots of laughing faces. Yes, I see from iceberg lettuce. Remember, you get iceberg lettuce, or you can buy butter lettuce or grow your butter lettuce. There's also oak lettuce and there's arugula. There are many different kinds of lettuce, but it is not a tree. That's right. It's lettuce. Going back to our fennel, I want to give you a recipe for fennel cough syrup, because a lot of people don't know also that fennel sumph is great for the respiratory tract. So if you're asthmatic or if you've got allergies and they tend to irritate your breathing, or maybe you've got a cold or a flu, fennel tea, that same recipe of fennel tea, 1 teaspoon of sumph seeds to a cup of boiling water. You can put it on the stove top so that it boils, and then reduce the heat, let it simmer just for 10 minutes. And so you can then strain it, add a little bit of honey, of course, for taste if you like, and that is great for the chest. But let's get to that syrup recipe before we close the show for the day. And so it's a half a tablespoon in this case of fennel seeds, pretty much a teaspoon, so a heaped teaspoon of fennel seeds, 3 tablespoons of honey. Here you're going to add 1 cinnamon stick, 5 cloves, and a cup of water. Put those into a pot on the stove top, bring it to a boil, reduce the heat, and let that simmer very, very gently for 10 to 20 minutes. And what then happens is the water kind of reduces quite substantially, and you are able to take a tablespoon of that every 4 to 6 hours. This isn't one you want to drink as a tea. So it's the 3 tablespoons of honey, a half a tablespoon or a heaped teaspoon of fennel seeds. You've got 1 cinnamon stick in there, which is an antibacterial, and 5 cloves, and your cup of boiling water. If it's for the kiddos from age 7, make sure that you dilute that with another cup of water, or rather put it into the juice because it's quite strong. That is us. It brings us to the end of part 2, Ramadan in permaculture. We'll be talking part 3 next week. Or maybe we'll throw a curveball and give you something else. We'll think about that one. But I hope you'll join us next week. And so from me, Rabia Carvalho, and from the team, it's until next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
On the day you take your place at the station of praise, asking Allah to relieve us, to have mercy upon all the believers, as you plead and plead until Allah grants you leave, saying ask and you shall receive.
Audio stream across the world on radioalansar.co.za.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al-Ansar News.
Making news at 10, Itegwini has recorded the highest